Welcome to Madlit Musings, the podcast where you get to eavesdrop on your favorite authors without getting caught. I've been stoked to have authors like Angela Hunt, Bill Myers, Nicole Deese, Tessa Afshar, comedian Bob Smiley, and more on the show, and this year I have another great lineup of storytellers and truth-sayers. If you love to eavesdrop at coffee shops like I do, this is the podcast for you. It's where we get real, we get tough, we laugh, and we might even cry. It's where we meet authors on a different level, where every story and podcast episode has its own heartbeat. So hang out with me today. I'm Jaime Jo Wright, your host at Madlit Musings. This is your podcast for real chats with real authors about real life. Hey everyone, it's Jaime Jo Wright here at Madlit Musings. And you're all in for a ride today because it's me and Jessica Patch. And that's always a combination. Hey, Jess.
Hey, Jamie. I lost it.
You know, we're already in trouble because our minds think faster than our filters. And so it's pretty much Jess and Jamie unfiltered today.
Terrifying.
It is kind of terrifying. So for those of you who don't know who Jessica R. Patch is, she is a suspense writer who writes for Love Inspired Suspense, and then you've been writing some other books now, which are also through Harlequin. But what's the
Love
explain
Inspired
yourself?
Portrayed. So I write. That's going to take too much time, and I can't. There's no explanation.
There's no explaining, Jessica.
I'm not in the dictionary. So Love Inspired Suspense is romantic suspense books. And they're very faith-filled, very overt. I also write for Love Inspired Trade, which are trade books. And those are more like mainstream thrillers from a Christian worldview with biblical truths and principles. But anybody in general fiction can pick it up and read it.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. And those are a lot more gritty, too, as far as I've read both. And one is kind of like, I mean, if you can say murder is sweet, you have like sweet murder and the Love Inspired Suspense. Like, here, I'm going to nicely shoot you. Bang, you're dead. And then you have the other murder, which is like, oh, dear God, we're all going to die.
Yeah. And it's true.
It is true.
Nobody's safe in those books. Lose my AirPod.
It flies out of your ear. Now, for those of you who haven't met Jessica, heard Jessica, etc., you have to understand something about Jessica.
No.
Here I go. Jessica is like, if you meet her in person, she is so girly and
that is true.
And pretty and pink and just everything. But as her sweatshirt says, she's crazy. She is absolutely terrifying. See, scream. Oh my gosh, it's even got your book cover on the sweatshirt. If you're listening to this and you're not on YouTube, go over to YouTube and see this sweatshirt. It's absolutely hilarious.
My daughter made that for me for Mother's Day.
That is a classic. Yes, that's great. But yeah, you know, it's kind of funny. Like even your newsletter and your website and all that, it's like pretty and pink. And then all of a sudden there's blood dripping from random places.
That's right.
That's right. So what brings that out in you? Like, why are you like this dichotomy of
why are you the way you are?
Southern Belle princess meets slasher.
I wish I knew, to be honest. I don't.
Just like, you did not prepare me for that question.
I thought about it. Like, why are you the way that you are? And I don't know. On the other side of heaven, I don't know. I think the Lord's like, why are you the way you are? No. I don't know. I've always liked girly stuff. Like I like playing baby dolls. I like Barbies. I don't really like to get dirty.
Don't ever murder anyone then.
Yeah.
Not for real.
Yeah, not for real. It's my thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I've always loved the horror genre. It's probably my parents. Honestly, they're crazy. And
well, if we can all blame our parents pretty much for what we've become, so that's true.
My mom's side of the family were extreme pranksters, and from the time we were little, we had huge Halloween parties. Let's not get into all that, but huge Halloween parties, and they would take us out in the middle of the woods and leave us there at like 10 and to find our way back. Because they thought it was hilarious.
They would just like drop you off where you didn't know where you
Yeah,
were?
they're like, we're going to go snipe hunting. And we're like,
Oh,
yay. And they drop us off, or they tell us ghost stories and then leave us. We would camp a lot. So just pranksters and stuff like that. We watched a lot of horror movies. I mean, I think I was maybe, I don't know, 12 watching Amityville Horror. I
oh my goodness.
have nightmares for days. But so, and Scooby Doo and all the things as
Oh
a
yeah.
kid. And
Yeah.
so I think that's probably where some of that stuff comes from. It has
Mhm.
to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so fascinating though. It's so fascinating. Somebody met me once and they were like, "Oh, you're not what I thought you'd be like." And I was like, "What did you think I'd be?" And they're like, "Well, I thought you were goth." And I'm like, I'm as far away from goth as you can get. So it is funny how we have a stereotype of if a mind
Yeah,
writes this, they must be this.
it's true.
And yeah, it's not
Because
exactly
people
how.
say that all the time. Do you like have like creepy crawly stuff like hanging in your house and
Mhm.
Halloween? And then you come in my office and you're like, do you write sweet romance?
I know, right?
I'm like,
Even,
no.
yeah,
Serial killer sign. Didn't you see it? But it's all shabby chick. It's all like, it's like all shabby chic.
shabby chic. Yeah, you're kind of like, if you walked into your office, because I've seen it through other times we chatted on Zoom, if you looked in your office, you'd say either like sweet romance or like Southern fiction,
Mm.
like beautiful Southern fiction, or even rom-com, because you're funny.
Mm-hmm. I've written some rom-coms.
That's true. You have a little bit.
But not typically. They're little fun palate cleansers.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of back when I'm trying to decide. I love them both, but now I just kind of prefer writing what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about it. You have
Let's
a
do
book
it.
out. Let's do
I
it.
do.
Let's go there. You have a book out called
I do.
The Other Sister. Look at that cover.
Ta-da!
Bum, bum,
That's it.
bum.
There she is.
I love
And
it.
all her little fancy pants stuff.
Little fancy pants stuff. Oh my gosh. So this book, I have a feeling I'm not all the way through it yet, but it's twisty enough where it's yikes. So tell us about the story so that we can at least have a general overview about what we're talking about.
So the other sister is about a girl who finds out that she had a twin,
Mm-hmm.
and she has no idea why they were separated at birth. But when she looks her up, she sees she's had this wonderful charmed life.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Charlotte, who is the protagonist in this story, has grown up in foster care. Her mom was a junkie, and everything bad that could have happened to her, I promise you that it did.
Yeah.
So it's about the filtered life, and she thinks that she wants that. So they meet, things go awry. She ends up taking her sister's place, and that turns into just one big stinking nightmare after
Mm-hmm.
another.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there's a serial killer, because there's always a serial killer.
There has to be a serial killer.
Yeah. So, and this one's pretty creepy, but he's the background. He's not
Okay.
like the last 3 books were procedurals,
Right.
where this is more of a psychological or domestic thriller. So
Yeah.
the serial killer is the backdrop to actually what's happening here.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah. And it just, I don't remember, did you watch, well, CW was like one of my favorite TV shows, but,
Yeah.
did you watch The Ringer with Sarah Michelle Gellar? It was like back in 2011.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so her and Christopher Pawaha
Okay.
was starred in this show called The Ringer.
Okay.
And Sarah Michelle Gellar played both sisters, and I don't remember their names, but one of them had been she had been a stripper and a junkie, and I think she saw like a mafia crime or whatever.
Okay.
So her sister dies, and she takes her sister's place. So when she gets there, she finds out her sister was nasty. Like there was affairs and all kinds of stuff. And it was such a fun, delicious show, and it lasted 1 season because she decided to be a mom, whatever.
Oh, come on, Sarah Michelle Gellar.
I know, like, how dare you?
Hashtag Sarah Michelle Gellar so she hears our outrage. Okay,
yes.
continue.
So I was so upset when that show ended, and I thought, I want to write a Ringer story.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to write that one.
Yeah.
And that's not the background at all, but I like the idea of twins taking each other's place, swapping places or whatever, however the case is. And so that's kind of the inspiration behind the story. So if you watched The Ringer back in 2011 or 12, you know.
I like that. I like that concept too. I was actually watching, I'm hooked on this show on PBS. Yes, it's Public Broadcasting System.
I like PBS.
So often we ignore that, and there's so much interesting stuff. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
they have a British show on there where they do reunions. They find missing family members, and then they, like if you were adopted or something and you find your mother, etc. The first one I watch, I'm reading The Other Sister, and the first episode I watch, twins.
No.
Separate birth, twin girls. The one never even knew she had a sister, let alone a twin. And the other had always known she had a twin sister, but she never knew where she lived because they'd been separated as babies. And the one who knew about her twin found out when she was like 7, because she lived with her parents, who were actually her grandparents, and her mother, who she thought was her aunt, lived 2 houses down. And so she made all those connections as a young kid, but then never found her twin sister. And it was interesting, but I'm watching this, and as it's unfolding, I'm like, no, it's gonna go bad. Haven't read these books.
Where was the twin? How far were they separated? Like, where did she end up finding her? Like, was she just like down the street, or was she
3
away?
miles away.
And they never ran into each other.
They never,
the same schools or anything.
No.
That's
I'm like,
insane.
how is this possible? And they I think they called them identical twins. But when I was watching the episode, I'm kind of like, well, there's enough differences there, though. Like, I wouldn't mix them up.
Yeah,
so,
you could figure it out. Now, these are identical twins in The Other Sister. They look very much alike. And then she tweaked herself to look a little more glamorous. But,
yes.
Because she had to, make sure that nobody found out she was the other sister.
So I want to be careful I don't ask spoilers. So
don't do that.
You can just be like, spoiler alert, and then just don't answer the question. So we have Charlotte, who's the protagonist. Now, does she have good motives for switching with her twin, or are these bad motives, or is she a problem?
Yeah, no, that's not a spoiler.
Okay.
And that's kind of what we explore is, here's the truth. We tell ourselves lies all the time. So she tells herself that this is her only option, that she has to do this, and she's only going to do it for a little while, because then she's going to move on and do something else. Because it is an act of desperation, and her life really is on the line.
Right.
But if you peel back all the layers, she wants this life. She wants it to work. And we do that a lot. We'll tell ourselves we're doing something for an honest, good motive, but way deep down, whether we know it or not, a lot of times if we really look, we know. We're really just saying that. It's really selfish ambition, something that we want. So that is kind of the exploration in the story is, our hearts are all really wicked.
Yeah.
It's hard to be good.
It is. And it's hard to have good motivations. Even when you feel like you have a good motivation, a lot of times there's something still selfish about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
I remember my first lesson about that. I felt so manipulative, and to this day, I still feel guilty. It's really weird. I think I was like 7 or 8, but I remember it like yesterday. I was with my cousin, and she had a watch. It was one of those swatches. Do you remember where you could
I had a swatch watch.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. And I'd always wanted one, and she had one. And we were looking at it, and we were playing with it. And she's like 3 years older than me. So in retrospect, I don't think she even cared. But as a manipulative 7 or 8-year-old, I was thinking, I wonder if I show enough interest, if she'll give it to me.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't going to steal it, but I was like, oh. So I went on.
But if you could manipulate her into it.
I went on and on about how much I loved it and how much I wished I'd had one. And sure enough, she gave it to me. And I wore it, and I was so excited. And I remember I wore it all day. And then I was just so consumed with guilt because I'd manipulated it. And so I actually confessed my sins to her. I went back to her and I said, I need to give this back because I was hoping you would give it to me when I was telling you all those things. And then she was like, well, no, I don't really want it. You can have it. She's like, I wouldn't have given it to you. So I ended up keeping it because she made me keep it. But it was one of those things where it was one of those stark moments where you're like, even your best intention of like, oh, I really like that. There's something devious behind it.
Right. And how I'm going to get it. Because it's honest. You didn't steal it.
No.
Because we justify these bad choices that we make. And we tell ourselves there is no other choice. But the truth is, if we tell the truth is we don't want to deal with the consequences.
Right.
So it's easier to go with an easy choice that we think we can get away with and not have to deal with the consequences. But that's not true.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then you have a villain, you have a serial killer. So how does the serial killer work into this? Can you tell us a little teaser as far as where he comes in?
So when Charlotte, she lives in Chicago, and her sister Aislinn is in Savannah.
So
You gotta
what?
say it, Savannah. You got to say it like Andy from The Office.
Oh, because up
If you're
here
an
in
Office
Wisconsin,
fan.
we just say Savannah.
Well, you really just say Savannah here.
Oh, okay.
But if you're Andy from The Office, you say Savannah.
Savannah.
So she ends up she goes into Savannah to be Aislinn. And when she gets there, she is listening to the news, and there is a serial killer. I've laughed so hard, I've laughed myself, of course.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're so funny.
Funny, Jamie.
No, you're funny. You're the one laughing. Yeah.
I'm laughing at you. Laughing at me. But she gets there. She hears on the news that there is a serial killer that they call Cupid. And so she's in the background, she's like, oh, great. Just what I need. But he's hunting within 10 miles of where she lives.
Okay.
And then for fans of the SCU series I did, you're going to get a cameo of Agent Asa Kodiak. So he's there to consult.
Okay.
And so she meets him, and you'll get to see a little bit of what's going on in their lives. Just a blip, but I thought it's fun. It's always fun when another character makes a cameo.
Absolutely.
So in the background, the detective in the story is obviously investigating the serial killer case, which leads to her.
Okay.
Which also leads to another case. So now she's not only in the hot seat because she has just a cop circling her, but she is a suspect in another murder, which she obviously didn't do because she's not the sister. So did the sister do it? I'm not telling. Maybe, maybe not. There's a lot of stuff.
Dun, 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 dun. Enter mysterious music. So really, you have the question kind of, as you're reading it, are the sisters what they seem to be?
Exactly.
And even the questions, like, as I've been reading it, my questions are like, is Charlotte even innocent? Like, is she... I like her. I want to have coffee. I know I texted you and I was like, I want to have coffee with her.
I'm like, you don't.
And then I'm kind of like, maybe I don't. Maybe I don't.
She'll put poison ivy around the rim of your cup.
This girl is not going to be nice. Not going to be nice. I'm going to end up...
Nobody is who they say they are. So the question is, who can you actually trust? And honestly, can you trust yourself?
Right.
Like we just talked about with the Swatch watch, which, by the way, did it have the little guard, the little plastic guard that you twist?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying right there. I had all those little colors.
Yes, I had blue, I had pink, I had lavender, I had mint green.
You gotta guard the glass on the watch.
Yeah.
People out there that are not Gen X are like, what?
I know, what are you talking about? Just Google Swatch watch. It's the best thing ever invented.
But it won't be as exciting to you because it's not an Apple Watch. But
well, we didn't have those back then.
We actually
knew how to tell
premier
time.
Watch.
I mean, and if you were really hot stuff, you got the digital version, not the analog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Moving on.
How'd we get back on swatches?
I didn't. I don't know. I don't remember how.
There was a reason. Does your you need to write a serial killer called the Swatch serial killer. The Swatch watch killer.
Killing Gen X girls up and down the coast.
The Gen X girls who manipulated their way into getting Swatch watches from their cousins instead of honest hard labor.
Yeah, that's you. You're first.
Yeah, I'm the first dead body that you
strangles you with the guards.
Yes.
So really just look like the little holders in braces.
They really do. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Swatch watch cards.
And he marks his victims based on their colors. Like he color codes them.
Yes.
Like the manipulators are
because
blue.
He has ADHD. So
the liars are pink. She finally gets it. No, just kidding. Oh, burn.
Manipulators are in red.
That's true. But were there red swatches? I think there were. I had all the
Yeah,
pastels.
my watch was red.
Okay. I had all the
And then it
pastels.
had all the little grid across it that was in colors.
Oh, you had the fancy one.
I got it for Christmas one year.
You had the rich girl one.
My mom probably put it on a credit card.
Still paying it off.
She probably still is.
I was going to say 10 years later, she's still paying it off. Yeah, it was 10 years ago.
My mom is the swatch watch killer. She's just ticked off about the fact that she's still paying on it.
Wow. Well,
This escalated quickly.
That's what happens when you have two suspense writers in the same room together. There's no such thing as an interview about a book. It's like, ooh, who can we kill next? And what's the next best for the serial killers and all that fun stuff. So, okay. So this serial killer, does he have like an MO?
Yes, but I don't want to tell you what it is.
Okay. That's a spoiler. Darn it.
But I will say he is creepy. You're never in his head or anything. You're just in Charlotte's head, actually.
Okay.
And then you're also in some then scenes, which you know because you've been reading enough. So you're in mostly Charlotte's head, but there's a few scenes where you're in somebody else's and you're not quite sure who it is. But so those are fun because I wanted to explore a bad seed story because I love the horror genre. So
yeah.
I mean, hello. He's all like, or not. The YouTube. You have to see the YouTube, or y'all are going to be like, "What?"
Yeah, I know.
Scary movie.
Anybody listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we totally apologize, but don't apologize for what you just heard.
I'm just wearing a sweatshirt with Ghostface from the Scream franchise, and I just keep lifting I don't want to say I'm lifting my shirt up because it's not that kind of podcast.
Nope, not that kind of podcast.
Enough where he
peeks over the edge
into the camera view. So for those of you who are like, what is going on? It's not as weird as you think. I mean, it is, but it's not.
Did I send you the ghost? What do we call him again? Ghostface?
This is Ghostface.
Yeah, Ghostface. Okay.
You did. You said
For some reason I was thinking Scream Face, and I'm like, no, that doesn't work.
That's the movie.
I texted you the Ghostface that was in the car.
Yeah. You said, this reminds me of you.
I was outside my dad's retirement facility. I'm like, this is a different form of eugenics where we send all the elderly into strokes because of Ghostface sitting behind the wheel of a car.
Scary, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay, so the other sister, we're going to keep going back to that because that's what we're supposed to talk about.
So
I have no questions because they're all out of my brain at this point. So what else should we know about this book, Jess?
Well, it's in all formats.
Yes. You're going to tell us something about the story. It's like, it's in all formats. You can... There's more. You can order it from Barnes & Noble, too. Amazon.
All the places, but we have really lost control here.
Yes, we have.
We never really had it.
No, we didn't.
So, like I said, this is a mainstream thriller. So you're going to get very dark undertones.
Yeah.
If you're, there's some disturbing things, but I feel like that's okay because if you're not disturbed by any of it, then that's kind of a red flag that something's wrong.
You should be disturbed that you're not disturbed.
Yes. So there are some disturbing things, but there's nothing graphic in it, but it is a biblical worldview. So you'll see truth in there. You'll see allegory. You'll see as the detective a type of Christ in how he speaks with her, what he says exactly, his behavior. So it's all there. It's just very, very mild. So if you enjoy reading in the general market, you enjoy Lisa Jewell, Lisa Unger. I'm like, who? Riley Sager.
I was just going to say Riley Sager.
If you enjoy books by mainstream authors who write thrillers, then you're really going to enjoy this. But if you're looking for a really overt faith thread, this is probably, and that's what you want, then this is probably not going to be your favorite book at all. But you could always go back to any of my love-inspired romantic suspense. I call those
Yep.
safer books.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think that's a fair assessment. I think the one thing that we can make really, really clear though, with even like the other sister is like, you are not swearing. You don't
No.
have
Mm-mm.
gratuitous
No.
things. But some of the darker elements would be like the situations your victims find themselves in and things
Yeah.
like that.
And the wickedness of the heart, because
Yeah.
really all of these characters to some degree mirror Charlotte's own heart. So even though it's about physical twins, it's really about how your heart is a twin. So she's seeing greedy people, she's seeing ambitious people, and all of these people, their hearts mirror her own heart. And then of course we see some serious depravity, because it's a strong warning to you that if you do not change your ways, you'll be given over to depravity. So that part is a little disturbing, but it was necessary to the story in order to see the degrees of junk in your life that actually mirror your own, and how quickly you can slip into things.
Well, and I think as humans though, we have this inflated ego of how good we are. And how much goodness there is in us, and that we're capable of such goodness. But in reality, it's more of the reverse. Like, you hear about these awful, depraved things that happen, but it's in all of us. It's the capability of going there is in all of us, which is scary.
I hear a lot. You hear a lot, or I've heard a lot. Oh, I would never do that.
Right.
I would never have an affair. I would never have an affair to this degree. I would never do this. And then, I mean, I've seen it happen. And I have seen, even if we're talking about Christians at this point, Christians say, oh, I would never do that. And Paul warns you against that. Like, never say never. And I, in my own personal life, I've seen myself slip over and do things that I never thought I would. But I have seen strong people of faith fall in ways that make your mouth hang open, that would be in a book like this. So I like writing about people who go off the rails because it's possible.
Right.
It's possible.
Right. It is. I mean, and he's like, my husband told my kids the other night, he said, if they made a movie of the Bible, it would be rated R.
100%.
Because of the depravity of mankind, not because of the sensational entertainment elements, but just because of how awful.
Just the book of Judges.
The book of Judges, my goodness.
Will wreck you.
It will. It really will.
Every year, I read chronologically every year. Okay. And when I get to Judges, I'm like, I do not even want to read this, because there's two stories in particular, two stories in particular that just give me the willies. And I'm like, that just sickens me. It disturbs me. And it sickens me. But it just goes to show how depraved God's people can become. This isn't even the pagan nations. They're worse than the pagan nations.
Right.
But God does not edit out. He's not condoning. He's not accepting. But he is not sanitizing what people do. And so I'm not going to do it either. And I'm going to be unapologetic about it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's great. And I think it's great for you to be able to express that, because I think sometimes readers are like, why would a Christian reader write something so dark? Or why would a Christian, why would a Christian writer write something so dark? Or what is it about a Christian writer that makes them want to write about a serial killer killing people? Is there some secret side to Jessica Patch we don't know about?
There might be. I have slipped over the slope.
Oh, well, you said you've done some things you didn't think you were going to ever do. So
why do you think I have all this property? I need more burial sites.
And the FBI descends on your house the day after this airs.
I'm like, pull up the ivy while you're digging.
Yeah, right. It's the best way to get free yard care.
It really is. You mow the grass.
Oh my gosh, I love that. But I love that about you too, because your heart is definitely in biblical concepts, even though your stories may not be overtly, screaming the gospel message.
Yeah.
You have those, like you said, allegorical elements, so people can pull that from your stories and be like, oh, okay, I can see how this is an example of that, and an example of Christ, or an example of the depravity of man, etc. So.
Yeah, if you're a person of faith, you can trust me. And it still may not be your cup of tea just because you get scared, or you don't want to read about darker things, and that's completely fair. but you're safe. I'm not going to cross a line where, you've read something that you really shouldn't have read.
Right.
And I'm always going to bring in hope. There will always be justice for the most part. I mean, not for everybody. Not everybody is going to get justice. Well, they're going to get their just desserts, but there's always going to be hopeful. Like your protagonist is never just going to get away with what they're doing. That doesn't mean that other people won't get away with stuff, because that's the real world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The real world isn't fair, and not everybody's brought to justice. And get the book. It's called The Other Sister. It's by Jessica R. Patch. It's got a great cover.
It does. They did a good job.
They did. And I don't know what it is about this book and all your books that they put out. It feels good in your hand. I know that sounds weird.
No, it does.
But
it's a good
really
texture.
Flexible.
Yeah, it's a good texture.
You don't feel like you have to crack the spine? Not that I'm a spine cracker.
No, I'm not either.
I'm not a spine cracker, because that's just wrong. But this one, you don't feel like you have to. It's just real flexible. Like this, your books have been working out. Let's just say it. They've been working out. They feel good.
They're smooth and charming.
Yes, yes.
They're not inside, though.
No. All right. Well, if readers want to find out more about you, if they haven't been completely scared away after this podcast between the two of us, where do they go to find out more about Jessica R. Patch?
If you want to find out more about my books, then you can jump over to my website at jessicarpatch.com. And also, if you sign up, you will receive a short free thriller. So there's a little incentive to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm always on Facebook and Instagram, of course. Well, I should be working, but I'm usually there. So
yeah, right?
you can find me. I'm approachable.
Yes, you are. And you're fun. And just look for the woman in pink.
Pretty much. There it is.
Pretty easy. Jess, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
This was fun for us. I don't know about anyone else, but we had fun.
We had a good time.
And that's a wrap for today here at Madlet Musings. I hope you join us again. And if you want to, be sure you like and subscribe here at your favorite podcast player or on YouTube, because you won't want to miss all the wonderful alerts that let you know when we have another conversation for you to eavesdrop on.